In the next half hour, Weather Center AM, a comprehensive national forecast. At 40 after, travel-wise with highway and air travel conditions. Then the weekend outlook. And at 50 after, storm watch with the tropical update. But right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Time now for a storm watch. Well, today, powerful thunderstorms will be possible, some perhaps packing some very heavy amounts of rain, some gusty winds, and some hail. And we'll show you where those trouble spots will be coming up in just a few moments. But first of all, let's check out the tropics. It's time now for your tropical update. And so far, we have two big weather stories for the tropics. We still have Hurricane Darby in the eastern Pacific, but elsewhere we have this area of disturbed weather that continues to approach the Bahamas. And on closer inspection, we've had this mass of clouds and showers and thunderstorms that we've been tracking the last couple of days, and it continues to draw closer towards the Bahamas. Now, development is not very likely because pressures are still rather high across this area. And also, though, we have this upper level low that is just to the west of this region of disturbed weather. And that upper level low will also inhibit the possibility for development. So again, chances of development are very, very minimal at this particular point. But one thing for certain, though, as this cluster of showers and thunderstorms draws closer, we'll watch the weather going downhill across the Bahamas. So far this morning, we've had a smattering of some showers, but we think the shower and thunderstorm intensity will really start to pick up in earnest later on today as that moisture continues to approach from the east. Elsewhere, though, if you're planning on boating or fishing today around the Florida Peninsula, it looks pretty quiet. And nice weather, too, around the Gulf of Mexico and just off the coast of Texas, around Matagorda Bay and South Padre Island. A few more clouds have been gathering across the northern Gulf. And we have a few clouds and a few isolated showers, too, flaring up across the Bay of Campeche. Now, across the Caribbean, we've had some showers and thunderstorm activity as well, primarily just to the south of Cuba. More thunderstorms, though, firing near Puerto Rico this morning, and a few more showers hugging the coastal waters from Nicaragua and Honduras and southward towards Panama. Now, we don't anticipate any development here either because these showers and thunderstorms are very disorganized. Nothing is forming any tropical features at this point, and also we've had some rather high pressures across this region as well. So again, development is not very likely. Heading a little bit farther out towards the Atlantic basin, though, we've been tracking a series of these tropical waves that have been rolling off the coast. A few more waves coming into play, one wave situated here and the other one just to the east of that. And these waves continue to propagate towards the west at about 10 to 15 miles per hour, but nothing is showing any signs of organization. And nothing really too ominous either as we head off the African coast. We have these waves, though, again rolling off the coast. Our next one just getting ready to emerge off the coast. But still, climatologically speaking, this is not a very favored area, at least for the time being. It probably won't be until August when things will start to get going more so just off the African coast. But nonetheless, we'll continue to monitor the situation as, again, these waves are coming off the coast, moving closer towards the Cape Verde Islands, and then pressing towards the west. Now, June and July are historically rather quiet months in the tropics, at least for the Atlantic Basin. But by the time we hit August, that's when the frequency for tropical storms and hurricanes really starts to escalate. And then things really reach a climax on September the 10th. That is the peak of the hurricane season. So again, overall, things are kind of quiet across most of the Atlantic. But as we head towards the Pacific, things are very, very active. Right now, we have a bona fide hurricane, Hurricane Darby, a very powerful hurricane that continues to churn up the waters in the eastern Pacific. And as you can see, it's still quite a long ways away from the coast of Mexico and the coast of Baja California. And the good news, it's posing no direct threat to any land areas. Here's the latest that we have on Darby. It's packing maximum sustained winds up to 120 miles per hour, roughly centered about 870 miles southwest of Cabo San Lucas, and it's moving off to the northwest at about 13 miles per hour. Here's our latest satellite picture, and earlier we had this very well-defined eye. Now the eye is filling in just a little bit. Still, the indications are, though, that the eye of the hurricane is roughly about 20 miles in diameter. Still looking at some good banding, a good outflow pattern with the hurricane. So we expect the hurricane to more or less maintain its present intensity, at least for the next 24 to the next 36 hours or so. But as we get beyond that point, it looks as if Darby may start to weaken somewhat, because eventually it would be working closer towards some cooler waters. But again, right now it's churning up the waters across the eastern Pacific. Stateside, we have the clouds gathering across the Midwest, showers and thunderstorms popping, and a few more showers too flaring up across the southeast. And we'll likely see more of this afternoon. The high heat and the high humidity will also be a contributing factor to maybe some powerful thunderstorms.
The name says it all.
Itchy insect bites and ugly rashes can ruin a summer day, but not with Cord-Aid. Its dual action stops the itch and helps heal on contact with a unique formula not even Benadryl has. Cord-Aid Maximum Strength stops the itch, helps heal the rash.
Now your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
You have made it to your 20th consecutive day of 100-degree heat. Unfortunately, it looks like there's no relief in sight. Good afternoon. Glad you joined us. I'm Jill Brown.
And I'm Lisa Moser. The center of the country will once again see rain today, as if we haven't had enough. Courtesy of a stalled out front in the region, we will continue to have a story on this frontal boundary. Jill has more on the showers and those big boomers that are currently going on. Well, it seems like the excessive heat has been going on forever in Dallas. This is the 20th day in a row the temperatures have reached over 100 degrees. But we have a way to go for the record for consecutive days. That was back in 1980 when the mercury climbed at or above 100 degrees for 46 consecutive days. Will we see that again? I certainly hope not. Let me just give you the heads up. We can possibly experience some of these extreme heat casualties and problems. In the event we don't drink enough water, we can suffer from dehydration. If we don't put on the sunscreen, we can have severe sunburn, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, or even suffer from heat stroke, which can be fatal. Please do keep that in mind. You'll notice that we don't have much in the way of cloudy skies across Texas. And hey, to have rain, you got to have clouds. And we don't have either. And of course, with all that sun beating down, you really don't want to be outside for too long a time. As we said, it is now the 20th day in a row. Tomorrow is likely to be day 21. Let's hope that we don't break the record. 47 days. It's going to be rough. Oklahoma City at this hour, 104 degrees. And in Dallas right now, 102. And Houston, a little behind now at 96 degrees. We're seeing temperatures a little bit milder out here around Birmingham, Meridian, Mississippi. That's because the cloud cover is in place, shielding us from the sun. And also the ground is quite wet from that frontal boundary draping across the southeast. This is an area where the grounds are a bit on the saturated side. Not so. We're saturated with heat. The heat index telling us what it feels like. In Oklahoma City, that's 107. Also in Dallas, it feels like 107. Dangerously hot also in Houston right now. It feels like 106 degrees. Florida, not too far behind. Here, too, the heat indices are about 5 to 10 degrees hotter than what the actual air temperature is. Some nice weather to tell you about out in the northeast, where we're seeing some sun with a few clouds, but for the most part, it's fair weather clouds in the area. Burlington, Vermont right now, very nice, lovely, 73 degrees. The current temperature, not too bad in Long Island, New York, 79. Philly, 83. And in the D.C. vicinity, we're looking at temperatures in the mid-80s here, too. Out to the west, things beginning to warm up even more. We're looking at the Montana area. Temperatures approaching 90 degrees. We also saw the temperatures reach in the low 90s yesterday across the extreme eastern areas of Washington and Oregon State. But along the coastal vicinities and closer to the Puget Sound, we're seeing temperatures much milder in the 70s. And here, too, it's warm. We're looking at the heat indices again across the nation, the warmest here to the south, but certainly things beginning to climb in the Rocky Country up around Spokane, where the current temperature feels like we're in the 90s. Well, drier heat, the monsoonal flow not in full gear down south, so 102 doesn't feel too bad, at least not this hour. The forecast, well, some thunderstorms are possible. Jill will tell us more.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. The front stretching from the plains eastward to the mid-Atlantic region hasn't moved very much, and that means even more rain for parts of Missouri, Arkansas, and Tennessee. But the southwest will see a bit of a reprieve from the rain. We'll look at that in a moment. You have good news and, well, bad news as well in Kansas City today. The bad news is the light rain that's been falling throughout the day might interfere with your outdoor plans. And the good news is that the clouds and rain have kept temperatures down to the low to mid-70s, and the light showers will continue through tonight. And hey, don't laugh. Low 70s, mid-70s in Texas, they'd pay good money for that, right? Well, around here, it might not be the best of news if you were planning on being out this afternoon. It's just showers, though, not really too many thunderstorms through here, and you can see that most of it is north of Kansas City. Just one last little streamer, and you should get a little bit of a break here. So give it a half hour or so, and hopefully you can get out without getting wet. But keep in mind that more showers and even thunder showers are possible through the day. And that's true from South Dakota across Nebraska, where you can see in western Nebraska the rain is getting a little bit heavier at this hour. And then down across Missouri, where we've had some flooding problems. And Wright County, your flood warning remains in effect, even though there is no rain in the area. Why is that? Well, of course, because we had a lot of heavy rain yesterday. It's this general area along Beaver Creek where the water continues to rise and Highway 95 is being affected. So still a flood warning in effect. That can often be the case long after the rain ends. The flooding continues to occur as the runoff accumulates in the creeks and streams and heads down maybe to where you are. Across the south, it's not very widespread rain. Atlanta, you're being avoided right now. Along the coast, we're in good shape. Along Interstate 10, on the other hand, some heavier downpours and some thunderstorms. Mobile, you do have a severe thunderstorm warning for your county right now. And you can see these are intense and pretty slow-moving thunderstorms, so also expect some heavy rain out of these. Into the Carolinas now, we have an area of low pressure along the front, and that's helping to produce a few more thunderstorms, which you may encounter on the Outer Banks. Look out for these. Looks okay down toward Wilmington and Wrightsville Beach, but interior sections, a few thunderstorms are building, and they may be drifting on over toward the beach area. So keep an eye out for them. Around Charlotte and up toward Roanoke, we've had a few thunder showers as well. Now this is the estimate of precipitation from yesterday. See how well it avoided Texas, unfortunately. We've gotten some good soaking rains in the southeast, and we're starting to see a little bit of that again today, but the heaviest really yesterday and today has been about in the same spot here. So again, that's the spot we're really more concerned. Our tropical update, and first the upper level winds. This is something we watch this time of year, and you'll notice that we have easterly winds in the eastern Atlantic, and that is considered favorable for tropical development. Light easterly winds. So this is one spot that is a favorable location for development. When you have an upper level low, unfavorable here, and if you have high pressure in the upper atmosphere, that's also considered favorable. So that can mean a big difference between a tropical wave that lasts for a very short amount of time and a tropical wave that continues on and could possibly develop. So we'll zoom in a little closer on a few spots. Let me show you first off the big picture. One tropical wave here, one here coming across Hispaniola, one in the eastern Caribbean, and then we have a real active zone through here with a couple of tropical waves. So we'll go in first off east of Florida. We've been watching this one for several days, and you notice that today how the southern extent just fell apart to the north. We've had redevelopment. Well, we have a trough off the eastern U.S. that's sort of directing this northeastward away from the U.S. mainland. We also have our upper level low. I showed you that in the upper level wind. So with that here, it's been kind of shearing it apart. So that one is pretty much history. And then we have this tropical wave that brought severe weather to Puerto Rico this morning and brought some rain to Hispaniola. That should also be sheared apart and already looks like it's diminishing, getting a little bit smaller here on the satellite picture. And in the Gulf of Mexico, things are clear. Down into the Caribbean, we have this tropical wave. It's looking a little more ragged now than it was a few hours ago, but it's out over open water, warm waters. As it heads to the west, that one certainly bears watching, although at this point would still be encountering westerly winds the next 24 hours, so that may keep this one from developing. So still things seem pretty quiet. Get out into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. This is South America here, and it's active along the intertropical convergence zone, but you see how you have one area here that kind of diminishes, another area flares up. So when you see one spot with high clouds with the bright oranges that holds together for 24 to 48 hours, that you get more concerned about possible development. And even the latest tropical wave that's come off here looks like it's diminishing. So while there's a lot of little things going on, there's nothing at this point that looks like it's on the verge of becoming a tropical depression or a tropical storm. However, we remind you that we're getting now into late July. By the time you hit August, September, October, you're in the busiest part of the hurricane season, and you should watch it a little more closely, especially if you live along the coast or you have some kind of interest down into the Caribbean. So that covers the Atlantic. The Pacific, well, it's a little busier. Actually, we have a hurricane here. This is Hurricane Darby. Winds of 115 miles per hour. That's down just slightly from earlier in the day. They were at 120 miles per hour. This one strengthened very quickly yesterday and last night, but has diminished just a little bit today. It's moving west-northwest at 13 miles per hour, and estimated pressure is 965 millibars. If you look at the satellite picture, you'll notice you can't see the eye any longer. And with that observation, that is why the estimate of winds came down from 120 to 115. It is forecast to remain at about this strength for the next 24 hours and then gradually diminish as it encounters some cooler water. But what's important from this satellite picture, as you can see, it's well out over open water and not close to any landmass, so should not be effect on any landmass. However, we may hear about some heavier surf all the way up here in California generated by this strong hurricane. Well, that's what's going on in the tropics. Back at home, we have the threat of a few strong thunderstorms, some severe weather, but we don't think it'll be widespread. As a matter of fact, we have very few warnings in effect. But you can see where the thunderstorms are. Just firing up these little poofs of the bright white clouds, and it's all circulating around high pressure, which is planted right over Texas. So Texas, no rain for you. As a matter of fact, the heat just continues on and on the next several days to come. But areas all around Texas, chance of thunderstorms, some strong, some with heavy rain, and again we'll have just a couple of reports of severe weather now and again, but we do not have any severe thunderstorm watches, no tornado watches to tell you about tonight. So it's kind of nice for a change of pace. This stationary front marks the difference between the cool, comfortable weather that we have today across the Great Lakes and into the Northeast, and the hot, steamy stuff to the south, and it's also the spot where most of the...
Ask your doctor or pharmacist.
People! Billy, a pilot! A pilot! Get anyone help!
Excuse me, miss. I'm Ron Shaw, president of Pilot Penn. Try this Pilot Easy Touch.
Now your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
I'm Kim Perez. You're watching Storm Watch, and we're going to talk about some active weather across the U.S. as far as flooding is concerned, because that's probably the big story tonight, and also the chance for more thunderstorms. But first, we're going to talk about the tropics, tropical update first. And I'll tell you what, good news for the rest of the weekend, folks on the Gulf Coast and even the eastern seaboard can relax tonight. We're not expecting any tropical development here in the next couple of days. Well, we were watching a wave that came across the Atlantic, and here's another one coming across the Atlantic, but this one moved all the way over here into the western Atlantic, and we were watching it, as you can see, about right there. Okay, it's kind of now moving out this way. Some of it moved this way, and some of it moved up this way, but actually the wave is it's hardly even there anymore. And underneath the upper level low, we're still seeing a few showers and thunderstorms here, but that is not conducive to tropical development when you have an upper level low over an area that you don't expect development with that. Okay, now if we get thunderstorms developing underneath our upper level low, like this, and then we get our low to move out, and we get ridging to move in over that area, and then we get low level circulation going, then we have to be concerned, but we don't think that's going to happen here. That tropical upper tropospheric trough is to stay here across the Caribbean, and we'll see a few showers and thunderstorms underneath it, but we don't think we'll have any kind of tropical development, nor does the Hurricane Center. And in the Caribbean, we are still looking at a few showers and thunderstorms into Nicaragua and into Honduras. Right here, you can see some of it just off the coast here, but it is pretty close to the coast. Plus, again, with that upper trough over the area, any waves that do come into the Caribbean, like this one, gets sheared apart from the westerly winds from the trough. And in the Gulf of Mexico, quiet. We actually have high pressure aloft all the way down to the surface, and any thunderstorms you see, most of it coming off of the land out into the area, and then that will usually end up dying. But actually the upper level low, you kind of see how the storms are kind of rotating like this. So we think actually maybe into Miami by tomorrow that we'll be seeing some of these storms anyway moving into your area. So take the umbrella to work tomorrow. You may need it. But the good news is that we don't think anything tropical will develop out of this, as in a tropical depression or storm or a hurricane. Now farther east, we're watching our intertropical convergence zone. And typically we don't get
depressions or tropical storms or hurricanes to develop from this area. It's usually a little bit farther north when the waves are coming off of Africa. And right now we're watching a wave that is just a swirl of stratocumulus clouds. And you can see how the twist. You can watch it. Okay, let's start you right here when it goes back. Okay, see how that's kind of going this way? Okay, and it's moving off to the west. But it's all low clouds. There is nothing at the mid-levels, nothing in the upper levels, and we're not seeing any thunderstorms developing with this. Just a swirl of low clouds at this point. But it's something we'll track as it tracks across the Atlantic. And here in our monsoon trough, still very active. Showers and thunderstorms here. But again, nothing to think about, worry about as far as development. Typically, we really start looking for development there in the eastern Atlantic sometime in August up into, let's say, September 10th, the peak, and then it starts to come down pretty rapidly. But that's what we call the Cape Verde season, that we actually really see a significant increase in tropical storms and hurricanes developing in the eastern Atlantic. Well, here in the Pacific, Hurricane Darby continues to track west-northwest. Winds are about 105 miles per hour, and it's moving west-northwest at 13. And it is forecast to continue to weaken as it moves into cooler waters here later on. Still showing an eye, still showing a pretty impressive hurricane here, but the next few days it will be encountering some cooler water here off to the west. You can see the stratocumulus clouds here, and it should start to weaken. It'll produce some heavy surf, maybe some swells in Southern California if you have plans to go there. But again, very small, compact hurricane here. Still showing an eye. We'll continue to keep you updated on this. Well, that's it for the tropics. What about some severe weather across the U.S.? Well, severe weather winding down, but I'll tell you, the flooding is starting to set in eastern Colorado tonight. And we have seen that for sure. We even had a tornado reported earlier in Weld County here in eastern Colorado, and even flooding problems around Jackson, Mississippi, where we're still seeing showers and thunderstorms here along our surface trough. And you'll see here on our radar that's still kind of